The false doctrine of a pre-tribulation rapture originates with the idea of a 7-year tribulation. That was one of the main reasons for me as well to believe in a pre-tribulation rapture. It was convincing because God wouldn't subject his people to such suffering poured out on the earth in the last days. But the Bible says we're not appointed to wrath. It doesn't say we're not appointed to tribulation. So that's the main problem right there. People confuse tribulation with wrath. But wrath and tribulation, those are two very different things. Tribulations we go through. Jesus said, in this life you will have tribulations. But then he saves us from the wrath to come. The basis of our thinking should be Matthew 24, as well as Luke 21 and Mark 13, where it says after the tribulation of those days, Jesus comes. It clearly says that he comes right after the Great Tribulation and he gathers his believers. And by comparing Matthew 24:29 with Revelation 6:12, we see that that is the time that the wrath begins. It begins in the seal number 6, the 6th seal, in the 6th chapter. So the first 4 seals, the horsemen of the apocalypse, they have nothing to do with the wrath of God or his judgment. There's no judgment yet. And by the way, the word seal doesn't mean judgments necessarily. Seal symbolizes a letter. Somebody writes a letter, they don't want it to be opened. So today we have envelopes and laws against opening somebody else's mail. But back in the day when a king or some ruler was to send a decision, a letter about some executive decision of his, then he would seal the letter with a waxy seal, and that seal would harden. And then the receiver of the mail, the commander in the field or somebody like that, was the only one who would break the seal, and he could open the letter. And if you received a letter with a broken seal, then he would know that somebody tried to read it. And that somebody will be punished because mail is supposed to be private. In Revelation, it says that nobody was worthy to open the seals but Jesus. Those were the decisions, the running orders sent from God to his Son, Jesus Christ. And they were only addressed to Jesus. So Jesus breaks the seal, and right there in the first seal it says, you will be on the horse, and you will go throughout the whole earth, and so forth. Now, I understand with the horsemen of the apocalypse and the wrath of God, I understand it's difficult for people to imagine that God would be sending the wrath and that Jesus would be distributing that wrath. And that's why there are those different ideas, and I was confused by that as well. I was trying to figure out that maybe the first 3.5 years, that's the wrath of men, and then we have the wrath of Satan. But we don't want to really accept the wrath of God. But the Bible says that the wrath is the wrath of the Lamb. And the Bible talks about the wrath of God. So it's hard for us to imagine that God would put us through tribulations. But tribulations are tests. They are exams for us. Some people are not really that trustworthy, and God is testing them. And that's why some people who are trustworthy will not be tested. That's in Revelation 3:10. One church out of 7, the Church of Philadelphia, will not be tested because God can trust them. And the other ones will be tested. And for that reason as well, it's difficult for people to imagine that the first white horse is Jesus in the first seal, because with him comes death and famine and pestilence, and it's hard to accept. So what are the 2 parts of the 7-year time period? It's not all tribulation. The first half is when the beast rules. It starts with the signing of the covenant with many, most likely with Israel and other Arab countries, to give Israel peace and security. But maybe it's wider. Maybe it's also with other non-Middle Eastern countries to bring peace on earth. Peace and security will be there in that first time period, and with peace and security comes prosperity. It's not going to be that bad for everybody. It's going to be bad for Christians, because it says that the beast, for the first 3.5 years, will wage a war against the saints and overpower them. overpower us. It will be persecution against Christians, with the wrath of Satan against Christians. But the whole world will marvel at the beast. If the whole world marvels at the beast and worships the beast, that means they are not being persecuted and chased by the beast. They will love him. And Satan will appreciate that love he will receive, because that's all he wants. He wants to be like God. That means he wants to be worshipped and admired as God by those who know him. So the first 3.5 years is going to be pretty good for the world. And then the beast will want more. And that's when God will intervene in the second half of the 7 years. And Jesus will finally step in. Jesus will come back. His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and with him will be the 144,000 Jews who are chosen to represent Israel. And then the wrath begins. And that's in the seal number 6. So this scenario makes perfect sense when you compare it to all the verses from different books of the Bible. It makes sense. It's supported by the Bible, unlike the 7-year tribulation, which is shaky. And that's why people can see that some things are not really fitting in well. And that's why there's all this fighting and arguing about post-trib, mid-trib, pre-trib, and all that. And the wrath of man versus the wrath of Satan. Nothing is certain, because the 7-year tribulation just doesn't make sense. It doesn't give us a good foundation to build the sequence of the last days. And people can see that. But what makes sense is the first 3.5 years is the rule of the beast, golden age for the ungodly, and the second half is the wrath of God. In the middle, we have the great tribulation. Jesus comes, gathers his followers, he pours out his wrath, he's angry, and he will avenge you. He will avenge you, me, and himself. Before the wrath happens, we will be taken out in rapture, and that's the pre-wrath rapture. Not pre-trib, but pre-wrath. And then the hell on earth will play out for 3.5 years. It will culminate in the battle of Armageddon, when Jesus will destroy all his enemies and the devil will be bound for 1,000 years, and we will enter the millennium. We don't have to worry about that. Our troubles will be over. But I believe we will see it, because after Jesus takes us, we will be ruling with him for the last 3.5 years during the wrath. Some of us will be given positions of authority, and we will be serving God in his army. So we will see this wrath being poured out, and then we will go into the millennium. And the millennium is going to be a beautiful time, even for those who are not Christians. I believe all of this is important to know. The timing of the rapture is important to know. The sequence of events is important for us to understand, because we don't want to be disappointed and disillusioned about God and leave him because he didn't rapture you when you thought he should have. We need to have the right expectations, and the right expectation is a pre-wrath rapture, not a pre-trib or any other rapture. Jesus saves us from the wrath to come, not from the tribulation to come. He comes right after the tribulation and gathers his people. His wrath starts with the solar and lunar eclipses, stars falling. We cannot discount these words. Jesus himself said that. And that's in Matthew 24:29-31. And when you compare that to Revelation 6, you see the same narrative. In Revelation 7:14, right after the chapter 6, which is about the sixth seal, in Revelation 7:14, they come out of the great tribulation. And Revelation 8 describes the beginning of wrath. Thank you for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you from Zion. Take care. Bye-bye.